I appreciate y'all coming to join us today. I really do appreciate the effort you put into this. We're going to be talking about our officer-involved shooting that we had on March 31st. If you feel free to ask questions within reason, and then I'll leave a little bit of time for you to ask a few questions at the very end. Okay? My name's Don Sweger. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Guthrie, and I'm glad to have you all here today. Officer Caleb Penley has worked for us since 2015. He's been a model employee. He came to us from the city of Valley Brook, and he currently still serves with the United States military. Our suspect in the case was Jason Burt, 27-year-old white male who did have a history with this department in the past. Last September, he was arrested for feloniously assaulting and battering the same victim that was in this case. We have two stills from the video right here. Right here where the red circle is, it's kind of hard to see the knife. You can clearly see the clenched hand, and that's where the knife is. But it's against the black Tahoe as the backdrop, so it's very difficult to see. Officer Penley, on this day, Officer Penley was en route to the neighborhood on North Walnut Street when he happened to see Mr. Burt towering over the victim in this case. Where she was attempting to crawl towards the street, she was screaming, begging for help. Officer Penley stopped his vehicle, exited the vehicle, plainly marked police vehicle in a uniform, much as I'm wearing today, and began ordering the suspect to drop the knife. Blow this picture up a little bit more for you right here. You can see that even on the ground, he's got the knife in his hand. Once Officer Penley got out of the vehicle, he ordered Burt repeatedly to drop the knife. Burt looked at Officer Penley, looked back at the victim, and then leaned towards her in an aggressive manner with a very large knife in his hand. Maybe not quite a machete, definitely a larger hunting knife style blade. Once the orders had been given to drop the knife and Mr. Burt acknowledged the officers present by looking at him, the suspect then leaned back in towards the victim with the knife in his hand. Officer Penley was in fear for the victim's life at that point and decided to use force to end the danger. That force resulted in Mr. Burt being knocked to the ground. Officer Penley immediately went up there, removed the knife from Officer Burt's hand, and began rendering life-saving measures in the form of CPR and first aid. The second officer on the scene assisted with Officer Penley's rendering of CPR and first aid. They maintained CPR until medical crews got there and pronounced Mr. Burt deceased. I'm going to show you the video clip. I'll play this twice for you. When you get ready to leave today, we'll furnish you with a copy of that, okay? You're going to see about 15 to 20 seconds worth of video. The first little bit of the video has no sound. The way our body cameras are set up to save memory and battery life, it constantly records video, but it only starts recording audio once the officer hits the record button. So we'll start in his car, and you'll see, well, you'll be able to hear everything from there. Once the sound begins, you see Mr. Burt come into the video. The officer immediately begins giving commands for him to drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. You'll see Mr. Burt look at the officer. You'll see Mr. Burt look again at the victim who's prone on the ground and make an aggressive leaning movement towards her. At that time is when Officer Penley uses force to stop the violent action directed towards the victim. And we firmly believe that Officer Penley saved this victim's life that day. it again for you. Again, no sound. Takes a few seconds for the sound to kick in. Officer's coming around the car where he encounters Burt. And then as soon as Mr. Burt's on the ground, they remove the weapon and begin administering CPR and first aid. Many of the reasons the officer had to use force that day, he clearly, and he was uniformed, he was in a marked patrol car. Mr. Burt looked at the officer when the officer was giving orders to drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. Mr. Burt did not drop the knife and leaned into the victim in an aggressive manner with a large knife in his hand. At that time, the officer felt in order to save her life from the impending and imminent peril presented to her by Mr. Burt, he had no other option than to shoot Mr. Burt. Unfortunately, that resulted in his death. So, short and sweet. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Who conducted the shooting investigation?
There's two facets of the investigation. The OSBI conducted the criminal investigation and presented that to the district attorney's office last week, and then we conducted an internal investigation into the use of force.
And obviously, I'm guessing by those results that the DA declined to.
Correct. The DA declined to press charges.
You said this had been there'd been a previous visit to the house for a similar domestic violence situation.
We had arrested the suspect in September of last year for feloniously assaulting and battering the female that was involved in this. Different house, though.
Did she sustain any kind of injuries from either instance?
I don't know about the first instance. The second this instance where Mr. Burt was shot, she had a slight cut to her hand.
And the victim is his wife or ex-wife?
The victim and Mr. Burt did have some kind of relationship in the past that produced a child.
I understand that there was a protective order that was out for Mr. Burt. Was he still under the purview of that when this incident took place?
I don't recall, but I do believe that the protective order had been dismissed by the time this incident had occurred.
And we talk about that officer not even maybe being called to the scene, but rather witnessing it and deciding to act very quickly. It sounds like this could have ended much differently.
We believe so. If the officer had not been in that neighborhood at that time, we feel that either the victim or her current boyfriend probably would have been killed. The knife the suspect was using was purchased like 20 minutes before this incident, so we firmly believe that he had every intention to use it.
Did the woman say what led up to that moment?
No, she did not. They've had this troubling past that goes back to at least September. It's not happy with her moving on is the best we've been able to piece together.
Where did Mr. Burt purchase that larger hunting style knife at?
Walmart.
Walmart? The one off of down the road?
Yes.
Okay. And it was a completely different, unrelated call that Officer Penley was responding to.
Officer Penley was responding to a reckless driver.
And where was that about in relation to?
Probably 2 blocks away.
So it just happenstance.
He was en route to the reckless driver call when he saw this going on.
How critical is it to have the body camera footage in situations like this?
I believe it's vital. There's a lot of people that don't like wearing them, but they truly work out for the better. As far as transparency, as far as a police department's ability to interact with the public that it serves, there's a lot of mistrust in government, especially directed towards police, and the body cam footage it levels the playing field for us, the news media, the citizens. It tells you if everything's good, if everything's not good. It's worked out very well for us.
Larger pieces of video, usually like they're at least 2 or 3 minutes. Were the moments after that too graphic to show, or?
We tried to limit it to scenes that wouldn't hurt the family too badly because of, well, I mean, Mr. Burt was shot. It was not anything that normal people would want to see. So we tried to limit it up to the point where bad stuff could be seen.
Have you spoken with the family and gotten their reactions?
We, at this time, the family has not reached out to us, and we have not reached out to them, other than making notification that day.
Is there any other pending litigation surrounding this?
I am not aware of any pending litigation at this time.
Was this the first officer involved you all had had for the year?
This is the first one we've had in many years. I've been here 4 years and we've not had one. And I think it would probably go back 10 or 15 years since we've had one.
Wow. I mean, that's typically just nothing you see, especially close to the metro.
Right. No, we're ecstatic about that track record. We're not, it's very unfortunate that this had to happen.
And it was the quick movement of this and the movements observed by the officer, which is why any other non-lethal form of a weapon was used, right? Like a beanbag gun?
Right, correct. I mean, Mr. Burt had a deadly weapon within 3 feet of the victim. So when the officer got out, it's drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. I don't have time to do anything else. He had to take immediate action to save her life.
You had mentioned the victim and her current significant other, her boyfriend. Was he present at the scene?
He was in the car with her.
So how did that transpire? Were they in the car, the guy approaches them, do you know?
Yes, they were in the car. The guy approaches him, tries to get in the car, actually jerks the door handle completely off the vehicle on the boyfriend side of the car, or significant other side of the car. And that's when she exits and tries, she thinks, to talk reason into him. She did not see, she claimed to not see the knife in his hand at that point. That's why she got out.
Was he the target then? Was he the target to that, or was she initially?
I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you.
So I'm just trying to formulate as best as I can based on what you're telling me, is that Mr. Burt approached the vehicle that the boyfriend was driving and went to open the vehicle. She gets out of the passenger side of the vehicle and tries to talk reason into her ex, Mr. Burt, at which point he comes around and begins assaulting her.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Was the child present? You said there had been one in the previous relationship.
I don't believe there was a child present today.
Which door handle was it that he pulled off? Passenger?
I would be lying if I told you. I know he pulled it off, but I don't recall which one.
You know if he was under the influence of anything legal or illegal?
That would be more of a question for a medical examiner. We have not received a report back from the ME's office at this time.
You said you hadn't been in contact with the suspect's family in this case, but the victim's family. Have you all been in touch with them since then?
We have not. Since OSBI was doing the criminal investigation, we tried to step back and stay out of it, so no impropriety could be suspected. Just let OSBI handle it and make contact with everybody they need to make contact with, and it doesn't look like we're trying to unduly influence anybody.
No, I mean, typically, if somebody thinks somebody saved their life, they reach out, or you know what I'm saying? So I assume she might have contacted you.
Was Officer Finley back on the job?
He is. Yes.
What's the protocol for a shooting like this for the officer following that, subsequent days following?
Usually the protocol is they're put on administrative leave, which he was, pending the outcome of the investigation.
Was this her home where the
I couldn't tell you that. Not that I'm hiding it from you, I just don't know.
In
Okay.
cases of domestic violence, are you all seeing any escalation of that in recent years or numbers?
There seems to be more reported now that it's a little bit more acceptable to come forward without fear of reprisal and with plenty of stuff in place to prevent.
But you're not responding to maybe more calls, or are you?
No, about the same.
When was Officer Finley returned to active duty?
after the DA released her finding. I couldn't give you the exact date. All right. All right, we'll conclude this at this time. I really appreciate you all coming up. Thank you so much.